Inquiring minds want to know.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call Personnel Committee to order. Roll call.
Mr. Steingart.
Here.
Mr. Benson.
Here.
Ms. Vetter. Mrs. Geiger.
Here.
Mrs. Labuda.
Okay, the first is discussion item, workforce violence prevention. Linda's
On her way.
on her way. Okay, then we'll go to reports. Eric?
Yeah, the Human Rights Commission, in the next 3 months, we put on 3 forums. This month, on September 30th, we'll be putting on a forum for tennis rights. And that would be hosted by Jamie Samarel, the housing attorney for legal service in Hudson Valley. Next month, we plan to do a forum on the rights of the disabled. And that will be presented by Action Towards Independence. And then in November, we, in collaboration with the NAACP, we're gonna put a forum on rights of the accused. And that would be presented by Tim Habis, who's the Director of Legal Services, Sullivan County Legal Services Bureau.
Great. Departments, personnel. Morning.
Good morning. This staff's been busy with the examination process, a lot of exams going on, and with a lot of jurisdictional work as far as civil service. And also we're working on a project with the state and the local agencies on some classification work for an overall broad statewide program.
Thank you. Monica?
Well, we're trying to deal with the Affordable Care Act, which every day presents itself with new challenge. We have to notify existing staff about the availability of the marketplace, which of course, when you offer health insurance that meets the minimum essential values and is affordable, can't go to the marketplace, but we still have to notify everybody anyway. So we have the document created. We're gonna do it as a payroll stuffer for the end of the month payroll, and then we'll have it in the new hire packets. But there's kind of been some rumblings that it might change it again, so I don't want to start printing 800 copies of things and then find out that it's all going to change.
The deadline when you have to put it in?
You have to have it distributed to current employees by October 1st. And then it's deemed to be distributed to new hires 2 weeks after their date of hire. So we'll have an orientation September 30th. So we'll just do it with that new hire orientation, and we'll do it with the September 27th payroll. So everybody will be notified timely. But it's a little confusing, and the documents that we have to give the staff are they're confusing. And for them to first go to the marketplace, it doesn't open until 10/1, and they're not gonna be able to do anything there. Because we do offer benefits that are affordable and they meet the essentials. So there'll be a lot of questions, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. Linda, let's go back to the workplace violence prevention program that you sent out.
All right, I had distributed something to the members of the legislature last month. As I said, it was very preliminary that we still have to do, and I've spoken to Dick Martinkovic about this, we still have to do a risk assessment countywide before we can actually finalize the policy and put it in place. So I've worked on a couple of drafts of questionnaires to provide to all of our employees to do the risk assessment. Dick and I need to meet and discuss those and coordinate how we're going to send that out to the employees. So that's where we are with that. I don't know if anybody had any questions with respect to any of the language in the workplace violence policy.
I just have one suggestion. Designated contact person, the name should not be in this.
That's fine. I think the reason why I put that in was because that was in our old policy. Probably if we were to do it by title is sufficient.
I believe that's how it should be done.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. I don't think the name should be there. I think all the plans, all the things we do for formal programs in the Homeland Security side, we do not mention names. We mention titles, of which we can have an appendix, so that you can have a cross as to who was in that title at the time and when it's dated, because that does change. Not that I want to change. But there are a couple things. One, on section B, 3B, It talks about workplace evaluations. Linda, you and I have to talk about who's doing that. Over on the reporting, everything that would be received by me if I am the designated contact person, which I have no problem with, would be in writing first. There's no verbal. There's no calling me up on the phone and giving me a big song and dance. It is writing, and it's formally received, documented, a case is open. And also, the part that probably just gets me a little bit more concerned is number 4, the reporting system, C. It talks about the Division of Public Safety shall take all reasonable and appropriate steps to manage the individual. Stop the clock. There's a chain of command. I initiate an investigation. I interview the complainant. I interview the witnesses, who the person that did what they did against the complainant, and any other persons that are part of the investigation. I will make a recommendation. That recommendation, as we've done in the past with the county attorney's guidance, would go to the commissioner of that division, would go to the county manager, and would go to Carolyn Hill. They then would sit and talk on the appropriate action, whether they agree with me, whether we should send them away for counseling, whether we should do some other form of discipline. That's really up to the department and the county manager. That's not my call. I don't manage the employees. I can make a recommendation, no problem. You accept it, thank you. You don't accept it, then do whatever's appropriate. But that's all done as a confidential document. It's not a document that's going to be floating around all over the building and everything else.
And it's not foilable.
That is correct. Sam, we're sticking with the same program we have today in that respect, correct? Because we have challenges all the time. Somebody doesn't agree with what I'm saying. Unfortunately, some people try to use the workplace violence program as a tool to get back at somebody. They have a feeling of aggression, and that's how they feel they're going to punish them. That's not how this goes. Maybe something was done wrong. Maybe we do have to have that employee counseled. Maybe they need to be further disciplined. But when it comes to that discipline, that needs to be done by people in the chain of command, not by me. Okay? Just so no, that's my comment for it.
Regardless, in any disciplinary action, it would have to go from the appointing authority. You wouldn't have that obligation in any event.
Okay, but that's
For clarification.
Yep.
And I
Just help me out.
we can talk about the specifics later on. I just wanted something available for the legislature to consider. Again, I don't think anything that's in here is set in stone, because until we do a true risk assessment of those factors in the county that need to be addressed, I don't believe that we can really implement anything in this policy.
Okay, and again, you and I haven't had the chance to go
That's
over it.
correct.
We're now crossing the T's, dotting the I's. But we do have to get the program tightened up. I'm working with the existing one. I'm doing the best I can, and I've had probably, X amount of cases, and we've done it appropriately, I believe. But I think that this would be much better, and I look forward to working with Linda and the legislature to bring it up to speed. Thank you.
Linda, can I just ask a question? Sure. In regards to, on 3A, any and all reports of workplace violence incidents or allegations will be investigated in a timely manner. If it's an ongoing situation, is there any way that there could be a time frame put in there?
We absolutely, we could put a time frame. Unfortunately, I didn't want to put 5 days, 10 days, because you never know when people when people are available to do the investigation. I would hate for something like that to be set in stone so that an employee could use that then against the county, or somebody from the outside could use that against the county. You failed to, you don't have a right to investigate it at this point because you didn't do it within so many days, or the county has done something in error. I also think it depends on the level of the workplace violence complaint, because some, I would imagine, we would investigate immediately. There are some that may not be invested, that because of time constraints, because of other obligations for Mr. Martinkovic or his staff, that he wouldn't be able to get to within, the 5-day time frame.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because then if you look on, under 4E, if after a reasonable time, the employer has not resolved the issue, the employee may contact the New York State Commission of Labor. If we if something is going beyond what is reasonable, if there was a time frame to address the issue, then it might not escalate to that point, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know how often that happens.
On occasion, I've had Pesh get a report from an employee of a case I'm working on, and Cindy, in all honesty, the Pesh will call me and say, I understand that you are working on this, and we have now been informed of it, and wanting to know how I stand in my progress and so forth.
Yeah, because you would know better whether, 10 days, 30 days, 60 days is reasonable.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know.
And we normally wouldn't go way out that far.
Right.
But, sometimes, like Linda mentions, if you had two people that have a disagreement, they have words, and one of the persons felt that those words were threatening, then they could put a complaint in, and that would be a case of talking, but maybe one of them hasn't come to work for a while, so now I gotta kind of get to that person. So that takes a little longer, versus somebody who makes a threat of physical harm to somebody. That's not something that's gonna go 5, 10, 20 days, that's gonna get an immediate reaction. And in some cases may automatically go to law enforcement, because that's a different story. So we're okay, I think.
Can I ask, if there is an immediate threat to someone, or they feel there is, can't they just go to the law
Absolutely, oh
enforcement
yeah,
themselves?
oh yeah, absolutely. They have different channels they can go to. And one of the channels is automatically going to law enforcement, to the sheriff's office or whoever they choose, and make their complaint there, and they would open a case. They can take it through the workplace violence program, which I would consider more like a civil action. And then, of course, they can go right to PESH. They don't need our permission to go to PESH. I mean, we would hope that they would let us try to resolve it, but they can automatically go to PESH. So they've got 3 different ways they can go.
Can I ask a question? Do we have a time frame on when we think that this will be adopted? Will we take this through the process and have it adopted? Things tend to languish and then get forgotten. So
I
I'd like to
agree
know.
I agree with you. I sent the risk assessment, suggested risk assessment forms to Dick several weeks ago. We have not had an opportunity to get together.
Yeah, unfortunately, these 2 weeks and the last week, we're very, very involved in the radio project.
Right.
We've got bids we've got to review. My time is, like, I got to be at a site at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock here for one of the towers. But that type of thing is, I will try to get moving on it as quick as I can, but I've got an awful lot on my plate right now. And sometimes it's easy, it's like I always tell people, I've got balls that I'm juggling, and as long as they all don't come down at the same time, I'm fine. And I've got quite a few of them coming down on me right now, but we'll get to it and I'll try to get it moving.
Okay.
It will not be September 30th.
No, I don't think it should necessarily, but if we
But
could
it
do
won't
it
be-
by October, November.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
put an end to it so it's done,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Let me tentatively say to you, let's see if we can get it done by the end of October.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any of my peers have any questions with the nepotism policy, which is part of it also? It's pretty straightforward, but
Well, I think I had given you 2 options. One which was very short, sweet, and to the point, which I prefer myself. The other one which is a little bit more cumbersome.
I only have the one.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't in the packet? I'm sorry.
No, not in the packet. It might have
Is this
been
the
if you
short
sent it
one?
out in an
That's
email.
the short one.
Yeah.
I think this is one that
Fine
was
with me.
distributed many, many months ago.
Right, that's what I think.
I can get copies
fine
of
with
them if you want. I just think that
We're not voting on
the
it.
one that was distributed last month is pretty concise, to the point. I think it does what you want it to without being overly cumbersome.
I thought it was pretty clear and straight to the point, so.
Yeah, but I'll be happy to distribute this after the meeting.
Does anybody need that, or do we feel, I mean, is there
I'm fine
anything
with this.
significantly different in the longer, I mean, what do we get into in the longer version that we don't have in the shorter one? I mean, is it
More-
crazy?
more relatives.
I think there's a whole policy and procedure involved with respect to, if in fact somebody is supervising, you can go to the county manager for an exception. I don't know that you really want to get into that. I think that if you just, make sure that nobody's supervising their relative and they're not firing their relative.
Quick
and-
to the point, I think.
I mean, I agree, only, I know we had discussion in the past about certain situations where family members are working in, a department where there may be, similar job duties being performed, maybe with, financial end of it. So, I think we had a discussion about that in the past. I don't know if that long one, because I can't remember, I didn't review that recently. If that had addressed anything like that.
I remember.
I mean, if you have 2, 3, 4 relatives working in the same department, closely working with the same.
That it did not
job.
address.
Mhm.
It basically addresses a person who's in a supervisory role, to.
Yeah, that's what this one does too.
Yeah, that's basically what the other one did.
So, I mean, I do have some concerns about, when you have multiple relatives working in the same office, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Doing the same descriptions.
I don't know if they're not in a relationship where they can, control their, if they're not in a supervisory role, I don't know that it necessarily meets the definition of nepotism. I would defer to Sam and his judgment regarding that.
If they're on the same level.
Yeah,
there is no
exactly.
nepotism.
I think that may come into a situation where there is maybe an ethics type of, if somebody is doing something to benefit, approving, I don't know if that's what you're getting into, whether they're approving applications or whether they're approving.
Yeah, it could be a potential.
But you're talking about not for a coworker, are you? That they would be approving stuff for a coworker?
Well, if you're working in the same department that has to do with financials,
Okay.
I'm saying, for example, and you have multiple relatives working in that same close relationship,
But they're not supervising each other.
maybe, but this addresses that.
This
piece.
addresses supervision,
Right.
which is, I think, the concern.
Alan?
I like the shorter version of the policy. I think it's pretty straightforward, and our main concern is that we don't have managers or supervisors hiring their in-laws or relatives. So, and I think in a county of our size, it's going to be inevitable that you may have, like a department like DPW, you're probably going to have people who are related working somewhere in the division together, and I think that's fine.
I mean, I'll go back to what I said over a year ago. If you couldn't hire relatives, half of the highway, water, and sewer departments in the county would have no staff.
Right, but the main thing is that the
They
person
can't
doing the hiring.
Right, you can't have
I
a
agree.
supervisor.
You can't hire your kids or
That
your
makes
brother or
sense.
sister, and,
Right.
if you want to do that, open a business.
That's not so easy.
And, in some cases in the towns, you have elected officials that are supervising family members. In the highway departments, the highway superintendent gets elected, and now he's got family members. And that's hard enough for them to go home at the kitchen table, after they've told them some things to do, so.
Unrelated.
Or things not to do.
Okay, resolutions. The first one is to abolish 2 part-time and create a full-time breastfeeding peer counselor.
I'll second.
Discussion?
That's fully funded, right, Nancy?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's state and federal money. You can vote. All in favor? Okay. Second one is to reclassify position 2387.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? But, yep, 1 second.
Just wanted to clarify, this isn't just a reclassification. The reclassification is authorized through the statute. What you're looking at is a reallocation of funds for the additional duties that position will carry. So you're actually voting on the funding, not on the reclassification. If you choose not to fund it, then we won't go forward with the classification, and the staff member will have to perform only the functions of that other position. That's all.
Or have they already
They're already
been
performing those.
performing the function?
Right.
They have been, yes.
And for quite a while, or is it a new responsibility?
It appears that it's been a while from all of the information that came into me when I was looking at all of the backup materials.
It's $500.
Yeah, you know, that's what
It's
I
$500.
We voted on it already anyhow, so. We all, we will pass.
I gotta bite my tongue, I gotta get out, because I can't, I don't wanna answer any questions about this. Let's move on, because I won't be able to compose myself pretty soon.
You just voted for it, though.
I know,
right?
I'm saying,
Okay, just
I can't.
Okay, reclassify position 2693, same
Motion.
scenario.
Motion.
Second? Okay. Discussion? All in favor? Okay.
4-0.
Public comment?
Just before you get to public comment, can I just ask, with the nepotism policy, if there's a consensus of the legislature to move forward on it, do you want me to now distribute it to the representatives of the unions for their input before we formally adopt it?
I would,
The nepotism one?
The nepotism one.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. So I'll do that, I'll send that out to
Yeah.
the union representatives and see what their input is with respect to that.
okay. Public comment?
Is that Bonnie, okay?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.